What's up, everybody? Welcome to Horror and Heroes. I'm your buddy Coco. This is my cousin Gio. That's my cousin Vinny, who's my cousin Gio's nephew, Vinny. Welcome to Horror and Heroes. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. How's it going, guys?
Good.
Good?
Very good.
Enjoy yourselves? Enjoying some Mountain Dew, as I am right now. Some Code Red. Gotta love it. No, we're not endorsed by them. We're just thirsty.
Just love it.
Yeah. So I watched that movie. I watched that movie that you suggested. Talk to me.
Yes.
I liked it.
It's a good movie.
I was really kind of wary about going into it because I'm not really that big of a fan of A24 films. And I get a lot of shit about it because like a lot of people think that A24 is like, the top of horror right now. Well, I mean, you got like the main three. You got Neon, A24, and Blumhouse. And it's like every now and then they put out something good, but everybody thinks it's more like they always put out something good, but every now and then they put out something shitty.
Yep.
I mean, as far as A24 goes, I really enjoyed this movie. It really it kind of threw me for a loop because I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. I enjoyed the storyline. The actors were good. They created these characters that you actually care about. And it just gives you this whole idea. Like one of the things that you shouldn't do is mess with spirits. Don't fuck with spirits.
Lesson 1.
Yeah, exactly. And these are lessons that have been taught throughout horror movie history. Do not mess with the spirits.
Yeah.
See, and you don't build houses on their burial grounds.
No.
Never. See, because as I'm watching this, I'm thinking like, what is it that like got me into this? Like, why do I like horror movies so much? And it's like, people ask you that all the time. People ask me that all the time. It's like, why do you like horror movies? Like, what was the first movie?
Well,
Poltergeist.
I was going to say, we're all from Queens,
Yeah.
which means that we literally lived around the cemetery.
Yes.
Yeah.
I lived down the block from a funeral
Everybody
home,
did.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it was Poltergeist. And I was about 5 years old. Obviously at 5 years old, you can't, like, I couldn't really read yet. So, like, to us, it was just called The Tree Movie, because the tree,
The tree
that almost
movie.
eats the boy alive, So anytime we would go to the video store, it's like, Mom, we want The Tree Movie. Because, my mother rented it for us. You see this movie.
She probably had no idea what it was.
Rated PG, directed by Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
What do you think? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, you're going to think, oh, this is a kid's movie.
Yeah. That movie still scares me.
Oh, absolutely.
Still,
Absolutely. I mean, just even that big puppet monster, that big white puppet monster with the light shining behind it. Like, as far as like big, scary monsters, like demon monsters, whatever it was, that's still scary to me. That's a t-shirt, by the way, that I have. So just wanted to throw that out there. But now, me, I'm more into like the slasher movies and stuff like that. And it's like, I remember what got me into them. But like, you're into horror as much as I am.
Yeah.
You're into horror. We go to horror movies all the time.
yeah.
What was it that originally got like you guys into horror?
For me, it was Freddy.
Freddy.
I don't remember how old I was or even which one of his movies was the first one I saw. But just seeing him, just the mix of horror and comedy that he had, like his campiness to him, that just really intrigued me. And the whole, like, the dreams, like you're most vulnerable when you're sleeping. There's nothing you can do when you're asleep, and that's when he comes after you. It's just, to me, that's horrifying.
That's fair.
I was a teenager in the 80s.
Right. So
Yeah.
you were there for all of it. All the good shit.
So yes. So, and then, so everything was a shock. There's a lot of repetitiveness now. So, you don't get surprised by a lot of things, jump scares, or you don't really. I love jump scares,
Right.
but when it's done right and it's not done too often,
Fair enough.
they're good. Obviously, I'm more into the ghost story stuff. But that being said, it was a Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. Those movies are the ones that got me. Honestly, Jaws too. I still won't go in a pool.
I mean, Jaws also, not Jaws 2.
Right.
No, Jaws.
I mean,
Yes.
Jaws 2 was good,
Yeah.
but nothing beats the original. But
No.
yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. It's like in the 80s, I was a kid.
Yeah.
So like a lot of this stuff in the 80s was being introduced to me as a child.
Right.
My first Friday the 13th movie was part 7. So my first viewing of Jason was this big built you know, like all wet with like tears in his clothes, you know, spine hanging out. You could see his rib cage. You know, a part of his mask was like ripped off. You could see his teeth, and then when the mask comes off, you know, he's like, oh, this whole like, you know, deteriorated face kind of looks like some kind of monster, you know, and that appealed to me so much so that I love the slasher genre because of that. And in part 7 is like one of the scariest he's ever looked. Now, it wasn't, the 80s weren't really dominated by like the superhero stuff the way it is now.
No,
The 80s were dominated by horror.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was the early 80s, late 70s, we had Superman. You know, obviously I wasn't alive when, you know, in the 70s, whatever, but, you know.
Captain America in 79.
Exactly. There was, you know, and it was like, but what is it that gets us into the hero movies? I mean, you know, it's easy, you know, we can all say it was the comic books, but as far as like the movies, like what was the superhero movie that really drew you in to like, oh, I want more of this?
I mean, that's tough because, like, you know, the modern era of superhero movies started with, in my opinion, I think it started with Blade.
Okay.
And, can't remember what year it came out, but it was late 90s, early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it just, that movie showing that they can make a good superhero movie that actually made money, you know, and I think that's a movie that actually just, for me, like, you know, and then, but it's what got everything else started, you know, like, because you had Blade, then you had Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire movies, and that did well. And then they just, you know, they tried some other things and failed. Like, you know, Fantastic Four wasn't that great, you know, and the X-Men pretty well, but and then now it's just completely different. It's, you know, all one universe. And
I got you.
But Blade started it all.
It's funny because I grew up watching Batman, you know, the show.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because when I was watching it, I didn't realize how campy it was.
Right.
It was the greatest show in the
yeah.
world for a kid. You know, again, I was like, whatever.
Well, yeah, like as a kid, yeah, I saw, you know, the Jack Nicholson Batman movies,
Right.
but I was always, you know, and, you know, growing up, you know, we had Batman, we had Superman movies, you know, but I was always more of a Marvel fan over DC.
Right.
And, you know, Marvel as a kid didn't really give us anything live action.
Right.
I mean, there was a Captain America in the 90s that was really bad.
Even for that time, it was bad.
Yeah, even for that time, it might have been great. I didn't see it at that time, but you know, I mean, the rubber ears, you know, like,
I was
which we'll get into that later.
I was talking about the Adam West.
Right. Oh yeah, no, you're going back to
Yeah.
No,
but I saw repeats of it, of course.
But again, you know, like growing up as a kid, it was
and
I watched repeats of that show.
And the Incredible Hulk and that stuff. Remember something? I started watching the Justice League every Saturday morning.
Right.
You know, because that's what they used to play.
Right.
When there was only like channel, you know,
but
5 and 7.
As a Marvel fan,
yeah,
you know, like I said, seeing Blade on the big screen just gave me the hope to see Spider-Man, and Captain America, and Iron Man.
And see, like that was one of the beautiful things about Blade too, was like there was that element for horror fans also.
Oh yeah, I mean,
especially that opening scene, like
the nightclub,
like that's like
a vampire nightclub where the sprinkler system goes off and it's raining blood.
Raining blood.
And now that movie, it had a lot of blood, but it wasn't gore.
Right.
You know,
and I totally get that.
And it's, you know, it's a vampire killing vampires.
Right.
You know, he's a different breed of vampire.
See, for me, like the answer isn't that hard. It was Batman. It was Michael Keaton. It was Tim Burton's Batman. Like, yeah, I'd seen like almost all the Superman movies at that point, but I think I kind of stopped watching. I well, maybe not all of them, but like I know part 3 had that woman who turned into a robot. That scared the shit out of me as a kid. It was one of the most horrifying things that I had ever seen in my life, and I never wanted to watch a Superman movie again. And then years later, I even remember back then, it's like now on the internet, it's like, well, this guy's going to play Batman, and you're going to get everybody like, oh, why is he playing Batman? It's like, oh, wait and see. It's like people said the same thing about Keaton because they did.
Yeah.
Back then, it wasn't on the internet, though.
Yeah.
Right. Magazines.
Yeah, I remember. I
remember.
I know exactly what you're talking about, because when I heard Robert Pattinson was playing Batman, I was like, really, the guy from Twilight, you know? But the Batman, a horrible movie. It wasn't great,
right,
but it wasn't horrible
it wasn't
either.
because
It
of
was
him, though.
right. He was the best part of the movie,
Right.
which he should have been. It was,
Right.
you know, Penguin was amazing. I didn't even realize it was Colin Farrell until we saw the credits.
Right. Yeah, because
You know,
me and Vinny
but-
generally wait for the credits to see if there's anything afterwards, and we make fun of every name that we see on the screen. So, but then
Yes.
when we saw that, we're like, wait a minute.
Wait, what?
Is that what I think it says?
But I mean, like that movie, like Thriller, was just what?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people say that the show, the Penguin was the Penguin show is really good.
I've heard great things.
Right.
I haven't sat down and
Right.
watched it yet.
I mean, like you know, as far as like Daredevil goes, I haven't seen the show yet because I don't have Disney Plus. But you know,
I am with Daredevil. I'm like itching to watch it,
right.
but at the same time, I'm trying to hold off so that
You
I
wanna
can
watch
watch the entire season in a day.
Yeah. I'm not
Just
gonna.
just call in sick from work.
well,
You get
now
a
you can't.
case of Red Bull. And,
Yeah, I know,
Now
yeah.
you can't because everybody knows. But one of the things that sucks is like I'm part of a Daredevil fan group, and I haven't seen anything from them.
You got to mute it.
Well, that's the thing though. I totally forgot about it. And it just after years just pops up on my screen with
Yeah.
one of the biggest spoiler alerts. I'm not gonna share it,
Yeah.
especially since Vinny hasn't seen it. I don't know if he knows
Daredevil's blind.
but
Really?
yeah, but that's the thing, man. Like I was like, oh man, that sucks. Like it was a bad spoiler alert. It was a big
I mean,
one.
like, I did see a scene
Mhm.
where it was a fight scene,
Right.
and I don't get I know you have, but the original Daredevil series from Netflix, there was a what was 3.5 minute fight scene in a hallway
Yeah.
that is one continuous shot,
Right.
no cuts, and it looks like they did that again and up the ante.
Well, see, like I feel, but see, like didn't they do that? In I know they did that in the first. That was the first season with
That
the
was-
hallway.
Yes,
The second season they did the same thing on a stairway. Correct.
yeah, I think so, but
Right.
it wasn't as good.
It was still cool though.
It was, yeah, it's
It
still
wasn't
cool,
as cool
but
as the first one.
from it looks like with this one they upped the
Oh,
ante and
all
they,
right. See, I haven't
they-
seen that.
you know, like,
I might have to sign up for Disney Plus just to watch it.
they like, you know, like Terrifier has that one scene in the first one, and then the
Right.
the bedroom scene in the
Every-
second
yes,
one, and
every scene gets
they up the ante, and I think and I've only seen a part of the scene, and I'm like, that's why I'm itching to watch it.
well, because you know what it is when it comes to the Marvel shows that are done by Disney, they just haven't been stacking up very well. And Daredevil is already an established show, and they know
Right.
how pissed off the fans are going to be if they fuck it up.
Yeah, so like when they did She-Hulk, Agatha, WandaVision, it was all stuff. It was new stuff. It was they had yes, they had the movies that it had to connect to and stuff, but with Daredevil, there is a fan base to the show,
Right.
and it's loyal fans, and the show set a tone, and the other Netflix shows that were part of its universe, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Jessica Jones, they kind of held on to that tone a little bit, but not as much. But
Right.
now this show coming back, it's not, okay, yeah, it's called Daredevil Reborn, and it's a new title, but it is a continuation of the Netflix show.
Right. And from
It is season 4.
right. And also from what I understand, because Wilson Fisk, Kingpin, had appeared in other shows,
Yeah,
they have to factor that part
he
of
appeared
his
in
life.
he appeared in Hawkeye.
Right. And then he
Hawkeye
also
series.
appeared in I think he also appeared in Echo, was it?
So Echo, I haven't seen,
But he was in it, I think.
but I'm almost certain he appeared in Echo because those two characters are very connected. She was one of his main henchmen.
Right. So one of the things with that is now, as part of Wilson Fisk's story, they have to factor that part of his life
Right.
into the show too. It's just to what extent is
Right.
it just going to be a memory? Is it just going to be? Are they going to go back to the Echo and
And
'cause a
not-
lot of people didn't like the show, and nobody wants this touching Daredevil.
and a lot in universe has happened since then.
Right.
Like, was Daredevil snapped? when Thanos snapped? Was he gone for 5 years?
Right.
Was Kingpin gone? Well, actually, with Kingpin, I think we got that answer in Hawkeye.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, but I don't want to say for sure which way it was.
Right.
But like, so it's like, in universe, what, the years that have passed, a lot's happened in those years,
Right.
and
So
some of the characters could have been not existing for 5 of them.
that makes sense. See, now, as I mentioned numerous times, Daredevil was always my favorite character.
Yes.
Now, I haven't read the comic. I don't read the comics as much as you do. I read them back in the day. I was able to get my hands on some older ones too when I was younger. But like in the 90s, I believe it was the 90s when he first donned that black suit with the red,
The black and red,
the black and red, which, previous to that was the red. And then there
the
was
red on red,
and before that was
yellow and brown.
red, yellow and brown. It's crazy how much that his outfit has changed. I mean, he's back. Well, I mean, right now, Daredevil, is it still Elektra?
In comics,
Yes.
I believe Elektra is still has the mantle of Daredevil.
Okay. Because that's quite a change.
Right. Oh, that's a huge thing. And then on top of that, Daredevil
more than
in
just a
that
costume
comic, Daredevil is still fighting the Hand, but it's led by Frank Castle, the
Okay.
Punisher.
Right. Okay.
So it's like,
Now, I love the black outfit. I really thought that was cool. I mean, I
now
love
is
the
the
red.
black and red. Was that the one with the metal shoulder
No,
belt?
that
No,
didn't
so like
have
just
metal
the
right, it was
regular
just
black
black
and red.
and the red, just
Yeah.
the red bars across the front, And I thought that was cool. Like, I know a lot of people didn't like it when they first changed it because everybody was so used to the red.
It's
I
like
love the
when
red,
you
I love
have a
the-
classic costume like
Right.
Daredevil's
Right.
red on red. It's and it's just such a big fits the character perfectly.
Mhm.
And then you change it, and it's like, yeah, it looks good, but it's not him.
Right.
That's what people.
Yeah.
That's how some people feel.
And the yellow
know?
the yellow and brown or yellow, that was okay.
That for its time, that was that
Well,
was
because-
60s,
right?
70s.
Because it almost looked like he was wearing like the
Yeah.
brown leotard over just like yellow
Right.
spandex.
You gotta sometimes in comics, the color of a character, it could have to do with like the printing technology. Like look at Incredible Hulk.
Mhm.
Incredible Hulk, when he first came out, was gray,
Yep.
not green,
Mhm.
because they couldn't print the green consistently. And page to page, comic to comic, it would be different
Different
shades of green.
Right.
So they made him gray because they can get that consistency.
Gotcha.
And then a few years later, the technology caught up and they were able to get the consistent green, and they just changed him to green.
That's interesting. See, I didn't know that much about the Hulk. And
Yeah.
like, I mean, when you look at the Hulk, he's a character that you really don't think changes much. I mean, on screen, yeah, definitely.
Right.
Because when the show first came out, there was no CGI.
Oh, yeah. Back with
Luke
Luke Rigno. Yeah.
And it's been said, and it's true, Lou Ferrigno is the only human man that will ever play the Hulk.
Yeah. Yeah.
No other man has ever played the Hulk.
Right. Well, I mean, others have voiced him, but
Right.
and used
but never
really
really played
but to
the Hulk.
actually on screen,
On
he
screen,
is the Hulk.
Yes.
Yes, and
Oh,
he always will.
So
And also, if you didn't know this, was it the Ang Lee Hulk movie,
which one was that?
the first
Just
one?
Hulk.
Yeah, just Hulk.
Eric Bana.
Eric Bana's Hulk.
Okay.
The Hulk's voice was actually a digital mix of Eric Bana and
Lou Ferrigno.
Ferrigno.
Yes, I remember you telling me that when we first saw it. I don't think we saw it together, but
Right.
I mean, you know all these things about about the
Lou Ferrigno is also the only deaf Hulk. He's deaf.
I did not know that.
There you go.
Well, he's like 90% deaf.
Yeah.
That's why he has that speech impediment.
Right.
Ah.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so let's look at the Hulk. When that show came out, it's just a dude in green, like he had the hair that came
Yeah.
out like the Frankenstein head almost, but that was cool.
I mean, it looked nothing like what the Hulk from the pages,
right.
but it worked.
Yeah.
It
had to.
worked.
And it
You
did,
know?
yeah.
Well, they
Again,
so
practical
he was
effects
already-
always win over
he-
CGI.
he was already bigger than most people.
Yeah, he was a
But they
big
also,
dude.
but also the way you film it makes the
Right.
guy look bigger,
Right.
taller.
Right.
It look taller.
Exactly. And it's like
Yeah.
they can still do that today, but and there are guys big enough to paint their body green and have them be the Hulk. And be
No,
believable.
I'm sure, but
I mean, I remember seeing a video of him standing next to Arnold Schwarzenegger, and this guy's towering over Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, Schwarzenegger's not that tall.
No, he's not.
He's
But
not.
this guy's like standing there, all
Yeah.
greased up,
Yeah,
ready
yeah.
to like destroy some shit. But like, I thought, as a kid, that was one of the coolest things ever.
Neil
So-
just mentioned how the transformation scenes from that show scared him when he was a kid.
Yeah,
That-
exactly. And
with the effects they had back then,
exactly.
yeah,
It was effective.
Yeah.
So now you go from the Hulk in the 70s, 80s. To when did he come out on screen again after that? That was in the 2000s.
Eric Bana.
Exactly.
Eric Bana's Hulk.
What a big
A huge
Difference.
time difference.
it's such an it's an insane
But that's
time
also a
difference.
lot of Marvel characters had.
Right. There was big, there was, because Spider-Man had a TV show back
Right.
in the day, I mean,
Look,
so
look at Ant-Man. Everybody knows when the Ant-Man movie came out. First Ant-Man movie, you love the Ant-Man movie.
absolutely 100%.
Most people don't know that the first on-screen portrayal of Ant-Man in an extremely comic accurate costume was Tim Meadows on Saturday Night Live.
Oh,
And until Paul Rudd put on the costume, it was the only on-screen
that's
Ant-Man.
insane. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Not as incredible as the Hulk. But,
Yeah.
So speaking of Incredible Hulk,
Okay.
now you had Lou Ferrigno in the 70s.
Lou Ferrigno, yes.
And then you had Eric Bana
Eric Bana.
and big ass CGI Hulk.
That looked horrible.
It did, but it didn't. Like it did because it was like when they came out with the Edward Norton one, you could see how much better it could have been.
Yeah.
Because Hulk, the Eric Bana Hulk, he was almost like just a big green blob.
Yeah.
He wasn't muscular. It's like you could have put green makeup on me and I could have done just as good a job.
So
I can't climb on airplanes, but
what I think what happened with that was in with Ed Norton and Ruffalo,
okay.
when they did the CGI for the Hulk, they started with Ed Norton's face and hulked it out. With the Eric Bana's, it was just 100% CGI Hulk.
So they
Yeah,
look like him.
It was a drawing come to life. And for me, if you're gonna do that, if you're not gonna model it off the actor,
Right.
make it comic accurate.
Okay.
And it wasn't comic
Right.
accurate. And
Which one was the one where
then there were Gamma Dogs.
he kept on getting bigger and bigger and bigger?
That was in the comics. They didn't really
No, I saw that. I saw that in.
I mean, in the Ang Lee one, the Eric Bana, that he does get a little bigger by the end of the movie, but that's something they he doesn't really get bigger as he gets angrier, but he does get stronger.
Okay. So yeah, because the thing is, when I watched the Edward Norton Incredible Hulk, I'm trying to see his face in the Hulk because I know they did it with Mark
Right.
Ruffalo, and now they've done it with Harrison Ford with the Red Hulk, and it's like I'm looking at him like I don't see Edward Norton in there.
Right.
It's tough. Like,
Well, again, with Ed Norton, I think they also did a little bit of Lou Ferrigno as well.
Okay.
I know he had a cameo in that.
yeah.
When they pay homage to the old actors, I love that.
Okay. I mean, right.
One of my favorite scenes with the Hulk is when he's helping Thor's people out.
There's Guardians.
There's Guardians, and he jumps from the thing. Let me
Oh,
show you.
when he tells
and then he lands flat. And he doesn't.
when the Fenris Wolf is attacking them on the Rainbow Bridge.
and he doesn't transform.
You want to know who I am?
Boom.
So, okay. I mean, Hulk hasn't really changed that much through the years.
I mean, in the movies, not really. I mean, there's still more of the Hulk
That we're going to see.
that we will hopefully see.
Right.
That shows some of his changes.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's the old man Hulk story
Oh.
where he is the last living person on Earth.
So, but isn't there an
Yeah.
old man version of every comic book character? Not every, but I know there's a Logan one.
They've done Logan, they've done Hawkeye, and they've done Hulk, and they're all more or less in the same future timeline.
Okay. Now, we all know your favorite superhero, Captain America.
Captain America.
Captain America. Like, no one likes Captain America as much as you do. There's nobody like. I tell people like when I have comic book or comic movie discussions, I'm like, oh yeah, my favorite is Daredevil. I'm like, well, my cousin Vinny, his favorite's Captain America. Like, really? Why? And it's funny because like I used to get that question about Daredevil, you
Right.
know, but I think it's cool. I think it's you're the one person I know who says Captain America is my favorite comic book character. So, as far as Captain America goes, 1940 first appearance. There have to have been a lot of different changes since then. I mean,
well, for the design of the costume, like there was modernizations to it,
mhm.
but it basically stayed the same. Then
Okay.
you had like alternate costumes and stuff.
Okay.
In the comics, the shield changed drastically. The first shield was like more like a traditional shield shape,
Right.
not round.
Yes.
And the stars on the top and the stripes going down. And then we got the round shield.
Okay.
This one here is from the Captain America and the Winter Soldier from when he wore his stealth suit, they call it. Just a darker blue.
So okay, there have definitely been different variations, different
Yes.
parts, but when it comes to the movies,
When it comes to the movies,
we're going back. What?
we're going
1979. You said
1979. Reb Brown played Captain America.
Red or
Reb, R-E-B.
R-E-B. That's a name.
And he had a motorcycle helmet on. The stripes went over the shoulders like
spandex?
like suspenders, and the shield it looked like it was made of painted saran wrap. Like
I've seen
it
pictures
was
of it.
it was clear where it was supposed to be white,
Right.
and you actually, like, when he's running, you see it flopping, and it's like you almost want, like, it's that on set they had to figure out how to get rid of the sound of, like, you ever take like an aluminum sheet? Well, yeah, exactly. Like, that was the whole time.
Neil,
So like, hey, we could use that for Hulk sound effect.
Neil is mentioning that the Punisher, Silver Surfer, those are cool ones too. And then he mentioned Aquaman, which I always thought was funny because you know how DC and Marvel have, so
Yes.
Aquaman is pretty cool, but what's it called? Namor basically is just a guy that could swim. And he could,
No, I mean,
yeah, but Namor would destroy Aquaman one-on-one.
yeah, but he can't talk to fish, right?
Yes, he can.
Oh, he can?
He is the king of Atlantis.
Oh, okay.
No, they are the same character.
Okay, I thought that there's some kind of difference though.
So
he has wings on his feet.
Aquaman. Well, Aquaman is half Atlantean and half human.
Right.
Namor is Atlantean with the X gene, which makes him a mutant.
Okay.
There was actually a Namor show back in the day. I think it was the 70s, played by Patrick Duffy, but it was called The Man from Atlantis. That I just remember that. Like, I remember seeing like ads for it or something like that before. Like when we would rent the old Spider-Man show, like the old 70s live action Spider-Man show. I think there were like ads for that, like at the end of it. I'm like, Patrick Duffy, step by step, Patrick Duffy.
You know that's something funny. And again, correct me if I'm wrong here because I don't know the comics as well. But again, the campy 1960s Batman,
Mhm.
the villains were awesome.
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
And a lot of the villains that they have now are like they're compared to that. Like the
Right.
Joker is always compared to how Caesar.
Caesar Romero.
Caesar
While-
Romero.
while you
The
mentioned that,
Penguin.
my poll this week
Yeah.
was, who was your favorite Joker?
Yeah.
Not surprisingly, Jared Leto
Okay.
came in last place with 0
He actually
votes.
got a negative one.
He got a negative one. Okay, 0 votes.
He got a poop emoji.
Yeah,
Mark Hamill
the voice.
came in next. He voiced Joker for a very long time. And then it was a tie between Ledger and Romero and Nicholson.
Really?
Yes.
I would have expected.
And Heath Ledger came out on top.
Oh, okay. So there was
Heath Ledger, Heath Ledger
second.
tied for second.
Can I
And I didn't vote. I wanted to wait till I voted my
voted.
favorite. I know you
Who
did.
did you vote for?
I didn't vote, but Mark Hamill would have got my vote.
Okay, and who did you vote for?
I voted for Nicholson.
Okay, so I was going to say Heath Ledger gets because he died. You know what I'm thinking?
Yes, but
I think he did a great job at it.
Yeah.
right.
I don't think he was good as Cesar Romero. I don't think he was good as Jack Nicholson.
Was he?
I say his name?
Jack
Nicholson?
Nicholson.
I read a Batman story called Batman: The Three Jokers.
Yeah.
And in that, it's like throughout all of Batman's history, there's been 3 Jokers.
Okay.
Batman didn't even know that it was 3 different Jokers. You know, and it was the criminal, the clown, and the mastermind. And to me, if you want to equate that to the movies, Nicholson is the mastermind,
Okay.
Ledger is the criminal,
Right.
and Romero is the clown.
So
There you go.
So
That sounds
Okay.
That sounds accurate.
So-
Right.
So what we see as what everybody thinks the Joker is comes from this comic, or does it come from Cesar Romero? The
A little bit
laugh,
of both.
the-
A little bit
that's what I'm
of
saying.
both.
So Cesar doesn't exist.
it-
We don't get that laugh.
Caesar Romero did it first.
Right.
So Nicholson, you know, like, yeah, the look is based on the comic, but the way the character is portrayed, you know, Nicholson had to have some influence
Yeah.
from Romero.
Right.
And then Ledger had to have some influence from Nicholson, which goes back to, you know, it's a chain reaction. Nobody can play a character and not have some of the previous
Yeah, yeah.
character in it.
Right.
Well, no, but I guess what I was trying to say was, did Caesar advance the Joker from the comic books, or did Caesar just copy from the comic books? Did he transform the Joker before he played the Joker? Was the Joker what we think of it now, or was it different? And he basically put that laugh in there and that little bit of yeah, I'm psychotic, but I'm also funny.
That's a good question.
Yeah. Now you gotta go read the comics.
Yeah, I mean, he's the first one to
you-
do it on screen.
you have
so
So he was
You know-
he had to be the one to create that life.
Right.
It's like what was being seen on the pages. You
But
can only
you can
imagine
only
so
hear it in
much.
your head.
And then when Romero came out, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's what he sounds like. You know?
Right.
And Romero did a fantastic job as the Joker because he set the tone for the Joker.
Right.
And you get Nicholson again coming out years later, like you said, like the mastermind, sort of like a mob boss, more so to speak. And I loved his look. I loved, you know,
Oh, yeah.
like, you know, and it's like every way that it happens for everybody is just
Neil has a good point.
Oh, go ahead.
Neil has a good point. What do you think of the theory that the Joker is not a villain?
Well, you know, Joker is the hero in his own story. It's, you know, he's
much like Johnny Lawrence is in the story of Karate Kid.
no, he actually is. He is the real Karate Kid. That
Yeah.
movie should.
Don't mess with that.
Okay, so we were talking about Captain America,
Yes.
1979, motorcycle helmet,
Motorcycle helmet.
plastic shield. Did he even have a motorcycle?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
he did ride a motor-
All right.
And it was a star-spangled motorcycle. It wasn't like, you know, like
Like an Evil Knievel motorcycle.
you know, like Chris Evans had.
borrowed-
yeah,
he
exactly.
borrowed
He
from
probably
Evil Knievel.
borrowed it from Evil Knievel.
That-
You know, like Chris Evans just had the Harley in the
Yeah.
40s. You know,
Now,
so then you
did-
had Matt Salinger in the 90s played him,
okay.
and his suit was very comic accurate. But it was, you know, like flimsy material.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know, like
Something don't
when-
translate.
When he punches, you could see it's like almost about to rip his
Right.
shoulder.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm strange.
and the most funny thing about that is that the cowl was not comfortable around his ears.
Yeah.
So they actually made a new cowl that covered his ears and then glued rubber ears to the outside of the costume.
See, like the thing is, I remember in the 90s seeing posters for the Captain America
Yes.
movie. So I'm a kid, I'm like 10 years old or whatever, and I'm seeing this. It was really just the shield, and I think it might have had like a swoosh behind it or whatever. And you didn't see Captain America in the ads. But I was so excited. I'm like, oh, Mom, when this comes out, can we go see it? Yeah, sure, no problem. Never came out.
Yeah.
Never hit theaters.
I remember.
And it broke my heart.
Yeah.
Because like I remember like a couple of years later seeing the VHS at Blockbuster. I'm like, what? Why is this here? Why is this already on VHS? And this was before I
What's
knew
the
like
worst? They made a Fantastic Four movie around that time.
right.
That was so bad that Stan Lee was just like, burn this. You know, like
Bury it with the
Invisible
Atari
Woman.
games.
Thing was clearly styrofoam. Invisible Woman was just a voice off screen. You know, like, you know, and it's like you can hear that she's coming from the side and not where everybody's looking. The Human Torch was not on fire at all. I think maybe one scene, you know. Like,
see, like we were just talking about 13 Ghosts, the original,
right?
And there was like shit on fire that wasn't really on fire.
Right?
Why couldn't they do that? The technology to make it look real was already there. Like, I don't understand why they couldn't have. Probably to do it on that grand of a scale would have been tough.
I mean, it probably would have been better if they would have just, you know, lit a stuntman on fire for 30 seconds. Reuse the footage over and over.
Exactly.
Was Stretch just like somebody with long arms?
I don't even think he stretched. I think the
just
only
had no
time that
arms.
I think the only time that he stretched, like they showed him going like this, and then the camera just followed his hand.
Yeah.
And then followed him back.
I could have been in stunt double.
Yeah.
But
God help us.
But yeah, so like that was the thing that got me about the 1990 Captain America. Never hit the theater, and that was before I knew that there was such a thing as straight to video.
Yeah,
you know, and then when you start seeing like movies pop up, it's like I don't like it says the year on it, like 1992. I'm like, this wasn't in theater, and it's like there are all these movies that went.
When did this happen?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh no,
was I sick that day?
Yeah. All right. So was this movie in the theater? No, this is just a straight to video. You know, that type of thing. So now you go from 1990 to is Chris Evans the next Captain America?
Yeah.
Since that?
Next live action Captain America.
And when he was Captain America, there was an evolution of his out.
Yeah. I mean,
within the movies he was in.
So
even within just the first movie.
The first movie, he wears kind of like, I guess, 3 costumes. You know, he's got the 1940s costume that, again, comic accurate, flimsy material, but it's, you know, but then, and he's doing the USO shows.
Right.
He punches Hitler in the face 400 times. And which that's actually an iconic Captain America cover,
right.
You know, him punching Hitler. But
as it should be,
you know, and then the first scene where he goes in to save Bucky and the other Howling Commandos, where he has that crappy costume,
right.
But he throws the jacket on over it,
right,
and the motorcycle helmet. You know, paying homage to the 78 movie, and you know, so like that's, you know, the first evolution of his costume you see, and then you go later in the movie. Well, no, doesn't he? Yeah, he's got, you know, the more tactical, you know, with the pouches, and he gets the round shield. And,
now, was that in the same movie, or was that because like that's when he first like fell into the ice? He was wearing this tactical.
He was wearing
Okay.
Yes.
See, it's funny because this is my thought about where horror and heroes comes together in a weird way. Horror movies have basically led in making special effects better and better.
Yes.
Because horror movies needed it to be better and better, whereas hero movies had to wait for the special effects to catch up to make, because you know.
Superhero fan, but you know, everything that's been done in these movies, you know, it's owed to the guys that did it in the 80s.
I
did it in the 90s.
Did we talk about this last week? I watched Evil Dead, right? And when they do the squirming thing of all the pieces on there, again, that's a stupid scene now, but it was amazing then.
Right. You know, another thing, going back to the movie I mentioned earlier, Blade. Most people don't know this, but you know, you had Blade 1 right before Spider-Man 1. You had Blade 2 right before Spider-Man 2, and Blade 3 right before Spider-Man 3. It was the same VFX teams that worked on Blade that worked on Spider-Man. And, you know, I don't think they're ever actually going to come straight out and say it, but I think that what they did in Blade was testing ideas.
Yeah.
And it's like, if we can do it in the dark with Blade and get it to work, and then they brought the same techniques into the light with Spider-Man. You know, like I don't think that the rainy Spider-Man movies would have happened without it.
You know, and here's the other thing that I've noticed about, again, mixing these two movies together, these two genres together. Green screens, which are prevalent in
Very
com-
prevalent
in the comics,
superhero
in
movies.
superhero movies, kind of screw things up for the horror movies, because usually with the Marvel and DC, you have very high paid actors doing these movies, so they're good actors, and
Yes.
they can act with nothing. They could act with with this in front of them, right? Whereas the horror people have a tendency of being the people that either just beginning or just ending their careers, that are not the best actors. I'm not calling them bad, but they're not the same level of
They're
actors,
not
right?
as refined.
They're not $20 million actors, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They're usually getting paid like a couple of $1,000.
Right.
So they cannot work as well on a
Right.
green screen that, with nothing in front of
Well,
them, and not
even-
another actor.
Hemsworth.
Yeah.
One of his first movies
Yeah.
was Cabin in the Woods.
Yes.
Right.
He was great in that movie.
Yeah, of course. But
If they wanted to make a Cabin in the Woods sequel tomorrow and bring him back,
they couldn't
I
afford it.
don't think. Well, besides that, I think he's outgrown it.
Yeah.
He's he.
Well, you give him $20 million, he'll do it.
Well, I'm sure he would, but I don't
then-
think it would come out as
That's right. Now all of a sudden, a movie that had a budget of $1 million now has a budget of $50 million.
because having that almost like they don't know what they're doing this to it.
Yeah.
To a horror movie, it adds to the experience.
Well, you want to know the funny thing
It makes
is,
you feel like the actors are as scared as they look on screen.
so you just actually kind of on a side note gave like a kind of quote from Orson Welles, one of the best directors of all time. He said they asked him like, "How did you do this? How did you do that?" He said, "Because I didn't know any better. I didn't know what you cannot do, so I did it." Because he said I didn't know you couldn't. I just asked the cameraman, "Well, I need to do a shot and this is what I want," and that cameraman figured it out.
Right.
But everybody else told me later on, like, "Well, how did you do that? Because you're not supposed to be able to do that." And I sent you guys earlier a beautiful, like from the 1940s,
Yep.
trick photography, light trick.
It was the 30s.
30s, yes,
Yeah.
30s. All it was a witch. It was a woman that looked
We'll
normal.
put it up on the podcast
Yeah.
page later.
Yeah, so she looked normal, and then all it is the light changes, but the makeup that she has reflects differently with the different light bulb, and all of a sudden she looked like a witch.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. I mean, just gorgeous way of camera motion.
Now it's like, okay, this is the shot we want. Let's do what we need to do, and then we can just fill in the rest of
Yeah,
the computers
right.
later.
Yeah.
Then it was, this is what I want to do, and they would figure out how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's
know,
it's like recording a record back before
Yeah.
the 8-track was
Right.
invented. You had to get it all in one take. You
Right.
fuck it up a little bit,
Look,
start
look
over.
at Charlie Chaplin. A
Yeah,
lot of the things that he did on screen.
Yeah.
It
was real.
like when the he's standing there and the
Yeah, yeah.
building falls down, and he had to be in the exact right spot
Yeah.
so that when they came down, he went through the window.
It wouldn't die.
You know,
Yeah,
like
and that's something that you don't get today. You
Right.
don't get that kind of commitment from people anymore.
No, it's
right.
It's like,
It's a lot of risk and a lot of
well, because it's like when you look at like from the horror side of things, where as you guys know, I love slasher movies. It's one of my favorite things ever. It's like when you look at like Jason. Now they
Changed
start.
a lot. through the
Yeah,
years.
he's changed a lot throughout the years. But the thing was, when you came to part 2, they had an actor and they had a stuntman playing Jason.
Yeah.
After that, they're like, all right, screw this.
We don't need the actor anymore.
We don't need the actor anymore because it's like,
Yeah,
and that's become like a big argument between Friday the 13th fans. Not so much an argument, but it's a very like hard point for a lot of Friday the 13th fans, because they'll tell you when you talk about Warrington Gillette, who was the face, who was the actor, who was in it for like 5 seconds, well, not
Right.
literally, but just a couple of minutes. But Stephen Dash was in the outfit the whole movie, doing all the stunts, and Warrington Gillette was getting all the credit.
right. He got top billing.
He got the top billing, and I've met him. I thought he was a cool guy, but Stephen Dash was pissed off. He's like, "Yo, that was me the whole movie." Like,
Right.
what, you know what I mean? And a lot of fans would be like, "Oh, this guy's a hack." They say the same thing about Ari Lehman, because he was at the end of the movie. I mean, come on, what did Kane Hodder say to you?
What?
What did Kane Hodder say to you? No, I'm sorry, it wasn't to you. It was Kane Hodder. This guy gave Kane Hodder his mask to sign, and Ari Lehman signed the center of it right here. He's like, he looks at the guy. He's like, yeah, I'm sorry, Ari Lehman signed it already. He's like, man, this guy was in the movie for 12 seconds. I mean, he busts his balls. Like, they all bust each other's balls.
Right.
I was there when Kane Hodder was sitting here and Derek Mears was sitting here, and he was just busting Derek Mears' balls the whole time. But, you know, on a level, they are cool with each other. But it's just like somebody like Ari Lehman, Ari Lehman, like, really loves that he's the first Jason.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
He has a rock band
Called
called
the
First Jason, and every song is dedicated to the boy in the lake. Which brings me to Friday the 13th, Part 1. First time we ever see Jason was the boy in the lake jumping out of the water, you know, scaring the shit out of everybody at the end of the movie. First time you ever see him, you know, bulbous head, you know, he's covered in moss or whatever, and covered in all kinds of shit. You know, he's got like one eyeball down here, that like one's up here. Just creepy looking, you know, just like he's been in the lake, you know, apparently this whole time. But, you know, it leaves you with the thought, obviously, is this a dream or did this really happen?
Right.
You know, then in Part 2, as I was saying, Warrington Gillette was the face. Steve Dash was the stunt man, so to speak. He was basically Jason the whole movie. His look was just a sack over his head with one eye hole, because, you know, Jason's eyes are kind of like this. You know, one's up here, one's down here. He was in overalls, you know, denim overalls with a plaid shirt, using a pickaxe. You know, we took the mask off. You know, you see his face. He's got the long hair. You know, again, mangled face. You know, really, really creepy looking. Like if you saw this dude in the street, you'd be like, I'm crossing the street. You know, and you know, he's earned like 2 nicknames. One's Hillbilly Jason, and one is Sackhead Jason.
I like Sackhead.
Yeah, me too. But when Part 3 came out, you know, they wanted to change that around a little bit because we already had The Town That Dreaded Sundown, and it was a guy in like a sack mask. So in Part 3, you get like this. They're like, this is when they said, you know what, fuck it, we're just gonna get a stuntman to do everything. Whether, you know, if he's taking the mask off, we're gonna put the makeup on the stuntman and all that. So this is when he first gets the mask. The first time he's in the hockey mask. I mean, you see him in the beginning of the movie walking through the someone's laundry, hanging laundry. You could kind of see him that he's still in the overalls, and then the next thing you see him, you know, he's in a green shirt and just work pants and boots. And the first time you see him with the mask on, because the character Shelley brought this mask with him to scare other people, puts the mask on. The first time you see him is he's got the harpoon aimed at Vera right through the eye, and it was just, to me, like that was one of the most spine-chilling scenes, because it's the way he just looked at her and just turns around and just starts walking, looks up the dock and sees the house. He's like, all right, they're next. You know, just this tall, lanky, creepy. You know, that was Michael Richard Brooker.
So you with Jason, you could have any actor that basically has that size, that had, you know, that could play that character, right?
You can kind of do that. But
Freddy, you could only have one guy, and that's it.
Right. Like I said, you can't replace the face.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it's like Freddy had the face, and it's like in Part 4 when Ted White, you know, he had a similar build to Brooker from Part 3. You know, but now he's got like the slit in his mask like this. You know, because he got axed in the head at the end of the last movie. You know, still has the bald head. You know, a little more deformed look on his face. You know, and the thing about Brooker, Ted White, was like he was a little older at the time, and a lot, you know, it's just like, yeah, he's like running through walls and shit, like, you know. And then
Patricia said, "Save money where you can. Let them use a stuntman." They're using the stuntman for the entire movie. He's an actor.
Yeah,
and he should be paid.
Right, and that's the thing.
It's paid accordingly.
It's like by the time they got to, I think it was Part 8 when they first actually put on screen Kane Hodder as Jason. Like I think that was like the first time they actually
they should have taken that.
Right, and because I think that was when they actually said, "Hey, listen, you know, we're going to put him on screen in the opening credits."
You know that these actors, unless you're a name actor, you know what's it called, you're only getting like $150.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You know,
No,
but
I'm
if you're
saying
if you're taking a stuntman and using him as an actor,
they're both getting paid
Yeah.
about the same amount of money. That's what I'm saying. Unless
back then, probably.
unless your
80
name
pounds.
carries
Right.
anything, you're not getting paid much more. Like if you have to hire a decent actor, yeah, you're gonna pay him $10,000 and try to do all his work in like 3 days. I was explaining this to somebody today. Was it you? I don't know. But because obviously I have a movie that's coming up, and I would love to get a name actor to do a couple of scenes just so I could put their name on there.
Can't afford it.
No, it can't afford it. It would cost $10,000. They'd show up for 3 hours, do their lines, and goodbye. And you can't reshoot the lines. You can't do it.
Right.
Because you got to pay them another 10 grand.
Yeah.
So yeah, names are difficult.
Yeah, and when in part 5, this is where like it gets like really different. This is where Jason's part of a dream sequence, which is basically what he looked like at the end of part 4. The chevrons are all gone from the face.
With the one chevron on the top.
It was really just the one chevron on the top.
I'm trying to see it on your shirt.
Oh yeah. Where is it? Well, that's the thing. I think that's part 5 right there.
It's right by your boob.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm glad that this covers my nipples because like I don't want anybody to see that on camera with these lights on and shit. But Tom Morga was the Jason in this, and he was like a little slimmer, and he had a white mask but with long blue chevrons throughout the movie. Whereas the dream sequence, it was what you last saw in part 4, basically. And he wore blue coveralls. I mean, I'm hoping at this point everybody knows that wasn't Jason at the end of part 5. It was Dick Wieand, I think that's how you say his name. He was Roy Burns. He was, getting revenge for his son getting killed, and he was like, "Hey, you know what? I'll use this Jason guy. They'll never suspect it was me. We got away with it if we weren't you meddling kids." Yeah, exactly. And it's like, so yeah, he had like blue coveralls, kind of like Michael Myers, but like thinner, and he had like a smaller build. And yeah, and it was just like when I'm watching it as a kid, I'm like, oh, all right, that looks a little different, but I guess it makes sense because he got the mask slapped off of him at the end of part 4. He had to find a new mask. Then you find out that it was somebody different completely. And then in part 6, you get CJ Graham, a little slimmer build, but still built, tall. He's the mask is a little rounder. I mean, Tommy Jarvis brings it to his gravesite to throw it in his grave to make sure that he's dead, and then instead brings him back to life by jabbing him with a freaking with a piece of the fence and lightning striking it. And it's like you don't really see his face, but you do. Very zombie-like because now he came back to life. We had maggots crawling off him. Puts the mask on that Tommy Jarvis brought over. And like I think this is supposed to be considered still the original mask because now it just has the one chevron on the top, nothing on the side, but it's got the slit over here, and throughout the movie, he kills some people in the woods who are paintballing. He gets himself a utility belt with darts and a new machete and all that shit, which I thought CJ Graham did a great job. The shirt that he wore, the green shirt that he wore, was a little more like I guess like more for warmer weather, like it wasn't as thin as like the work shirt that he wore in the movie before. But
I remember when I met him, I gave him the mask sign, and he actually looked at it. He goes, "You're gonna want Kane here," pointing to the center of the mask, and he signs off to the side, like on the cheek.
No, I think no.
CJ and then we went to Ari, and Ari signed right in the middle.
No.
Yeah,
I think CJ Graham signed the middle, and you told him, "Oh, we were saving that spot for Kane Hodder."
He said it to me. He's like, you're gonna want Kane to sign here.
I think. All right. I thought Ari Lehman. You told Ari Lehman that you're saving the middle for Kane Hodder, but when we met CJ Graham, I think we were both scared to death of this guy. And
I could just.
And Vinny didn't say shit to him when he was signing the middle, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we're meeting Kane Hodder next month." And he's like, "Oh okay, yeah." And he's like, "Yeah, I was gonna have him sign the middle there." And he's like, "Oh, it's all right, man. I'll call him later and make sure he takes his medication." That type of shit. But again, like that's how I remembered it. I could be wrong.
I just remember. I was one of the few times I was starstruck.
Yeah, CJ Graham. CJ Graham is massive.
Dude. He is. And
he's in his 60s, and he is massive. Like he grabbed me. He's like, "You know what you got to do with these big guys? Puts his arm around him. He's like, you gotta shake him around a little bit. I'm like, oh my god.
Like meeting him and meeting Kane for the first time.
Yeah.
I felt like I was in the presence
Oh
of
my
Jason.
God, dude. I mean,
Like I wasn't looking at CJ Graham.
right.
I was looking at Jason.
Jason, right. And dude, you weren't even there the first time I met Kane Hodder. It was like one of the greatest moments of my life. I'm not going to tell the story now. We'll probably have
Save it for
another
another
show.
day.
Yeah, we'll save it for if we do one on conventions. We should talk about it.
Yeah.
It's a great story. Which brings us to part 7. The first movie Kane Hodder was in. This is Jason, in the water for however many years after part 6. His clothes are all dingy. They're all torn apart. You can see like I said, you can see his ribs. I mean, part 7 is my favorite look. If you notice, like these two masks I made here, these are freestyle. Like these are just things that like I just wanted to mess around with. But if you notice, the big tear on the side of the mask. I mean, it's not as big as the one in part 7, but that was the inspiration for that. Like, because part 7 is my favorite look. Kane Hodder is my favorite Jason, and a lot of people don't even like Kane Hodder as Jason. And I don't even know if it's just because people consider part 7 through Jason X to be the worst of the Jason movies. And I get that, but when part 7 was my first movie, that movie's always going to be my favorite. When Jason Goes to Hell was the first Jason movie I saw in theater, all right, it's not going to be my favorite, but I'm still going to have a special place in my heart for it, But I just love the way part 7 looked because, it was all torn. You could see his teeth through the mask. When it rips open, he's got no nose. You just see like the little spot where the nose should be. And he's got, his no lips. It's just teeth. And, one eye's missing because of where he got slashed with the machete from Tommy Jarvis. Like I said, you can see his ribs. You can see his spine out the back. Then part 8, Kane Hodder again. The suit's not as bad. It's the same suit. I don't know if he sewed it up. I don't know if it I don't know if like the fish came up to him and started like spitting out like whatever, But it was basically the same suit. Like the suit's all black now, and little holes here and there. Doesn't have a mask, so he gets on the boat, kills this kid Jimmy who's trying to like scare his girlfriend. So the mask's different now. It's a lot more rounded. It's like more of a yellow color, and he's got it's got like some slime on it because the whole movie Jason's wet. And he's got like some slime on it and stuff like that. The chevrons are smaller, and also pointed the other direction. And it's funny because like one of my buddies, my buddy Mike, even says he's like, I don't like that because it looks like that French mustache. Yeah. It's just such a funky looking, and I laugh every time I look at it now because that's what I think of, And then you got Jason Goes to Hell. Like the mask looks more like the one in part 7. It's got like the rip here, it's got rips here, but it's like stuck on his face, because the back of his head is like to the forward. But now,
almost as if like he's growing around.
Exactly. But now he's got a new suit, new outfit. It's a lighter blue color. He actually tucks in his shirt for this one. He tucks in his shirt and he's got a belt.
It's formal.
Yeah, exactly. Small holes here and there, and but the look was cool. For what it was,
instead of boots, he's got loafers.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, but it's like, it's funny because at the end of part 8, he's covered in toxic waste, whatever. And it's like, okay, I could get like the bubbling head and all that stuff with the hair growing out of it because, now he's got like all this shit growing out of it. He also seems like a little more bloated in it. The look was pretty good though. And by the end, it's all like, torn apart and shit like that. But a decent look. Movie itself, I'm a fan because it was the first one I saw in theater, and then Jason X comes out. Different mask, like the front comes out a little more, but that was something that Kane suggested himself because he could barely breathe in the one in Jason Goes to Hell. He's got like the tattered coat. He still had. This was the first time that like when you see Jason and there's a close up of his face, you see Kane's eye moving, and it's like I could see that that's Kane Hodder. You know what I mean? It was the first, like for me at least, it's like, wow, that's like I see his face.
You see the actor shining through.
Exactly. It's like
now did that pull you in or push you away?
Yes. No, it definitely pulled me in because like I'm like, all right. It's like Kane, is that you? It's like But that look wasn't bad. Then when he became, Uber Jason, part of me did like I didn't even see it in the theater because I'm like, that looks ridiculous. But after watching it, it's like it felt like a sci-fi movie, like a sci-fi channel movie.
Right.
But I enjoy it. I love the look, that metallic mask. He looks like Lord Zed.
Yeah, he did look awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
That movie, I mean, out of all the Jason movies, that movie does have my favorite kill. The head in the liquid nitrogen,
yeah, and then
and the smash.
Yeah, that's a great
It's
kill.
just, yeah.
Dude, one of my favorite kills in that one was when he killed that skinny kid Azrael. Like he just grabbed him and like flipped him and just basically broke his back over his knee.
Yeah.
Just the way he tossed this
Just
kid, it was hilarious.
Batman him.
Yeah, exactly. But I didn't mind like the nanotech, whatever, the nanobites, whatever the hell it was that brought him back to life.
It fit where the
I
story
mean, I feel like
was
you
going.
would love it because it looks like a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
Like they played after Sharknado 8.
I was about to say, why have they never made a Jason versus Jaws?
Oh my god, that would be hilarious. There was a zombie versus a shark in the movie Zombie. that scene was great. I mean,
Jason versus Jaws.
yeah, well, I mean,
Bruce takes it.
so then you got Ken Gersinger, Freddy versus Jason, taller, bigger coat, mask is more like fitting to the head, bigger chevrons. By the end of the movie, it's all slashed up, all bloody, and all that stuff after the fight. And it's funny because Ken Gersinger was actually in part 8. He was the dude. He was the dude in the diner that Jason throws through the mirror. He just grabs him. He had the apron on, whatever. So I guess he was like one of the cooks or whatever. He just, he's walking up to Jason, like he looks like he's gonna try and do something, just grabs him, tosses him into the mirror. But I thought Ken Gersinger did a pretty good job as Jason. I think he also got like a shit end of the stick. Of course, Kane got an even shittier end of the stick because this was something that was in the works forever with Kane Hodder. And any documentary that anytime like Kane gets a chance to talk about it, he'll talk about it. And it's sad every time. I've heard him tell that story 3 times in 3 different documentaries, and it breaks my heart every time.
He wanted to do it, right?
Well, because he was supposed to do it. I
And
mean,
they didn't even
at
ask
the end
him?
of Jason Goes to Hell,
It was the
you
tease.
see the
tease.
yeah, exactly. And it was supposed to be forever. Kane Hodder and Robert Englund.
Yeah.
Didn't happen. He was like, yeah. Like he was like they kept telling him, yeah, we're gonna do it, no problem, And then when it finally happened, it's like, wait, what the hell's going on? This director just chose somebody else. I know that's not where we're going, but like I just felt
That's
because
a story for another show.
yeah, exactly. And then there's 2009, Derek Mears. Again, tall, more lean, has the jacket, brutal. He starts out with the sack, but it's more like custom. It's more like fitting on his head.
Right.
Then
His sack in Friday 2.
Mhm.
It looks like he took the sack and wore it as a mask.
right, tying it up.
In the remake, it looks like somebody tried to, like they put the mask before they even threw him in the water.
right. Oh, okay.
Before he drowned. Like it looks
Yeah.
more like somebody tried to kill him by putting the mask over.
I got
his
what you're
head.
saying. I think it was
it's
more
tighter. It's
right. I think it was more like he fashioned it himself. That's how.
right. No, that's probably what
Yeah.
happened. But it's just it has that
And
look
again-
to it. Like
Again with the one eye hole. Then he finds a hockey mask. Another one that's more fitting to Jason's face. Mask comes off. He's got the long hair. Whatever bit of variation.
straggly.
Yeah, exactly. He's got like the messed up eyes. He's got like the hair lip and all that stuff and fucked up teeth.
So, okay, so obviously there's a ton of Jason movies,
Mhm.
ton of all these movies. Is this what makes it harder for people to write something new? That it's so easy to just produce something that already has a name on it and not have fresh stuff out there?
Well, see, I think sometimes, like I was thinking about this recently, and I think the reason that a lot of people go that route is because they'll write a story and they'll pass it off to somebody. It's like, dude, that's basically Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
there are-
so then let's make another Friday the 13th movie.
There
with this
are
character.
no more new ideas.
no,
I
I
think
don't,
it's true.
no. See, here's the thing. Depends what you're saying. Every movie, every story is a Shakespearean story,
Oh, yeah.
or it goes back to the Greeks.
Right.
So so it's pretty simple. Revenge, love, hate, it's all the same thing if you think about it that way.
Mhm.
They're all ghost stories. There's always a reason for it. The point being is
To make it fresh.
it's to make it fresh.
There's no more new
characters,
ideas.
new
It's fresh
story.
things.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. My thing is I'm always looking for movies that are not attached to like 4 or 5 movies
Right.
because to me that those are the
What
ones.
was it? Like
Like-
Avatar
Look,
was, you know,
yeah.
when it first came out. It was just amazing. It's Pocahontas.
Yeah,
It's
okay. I was literally going to say that to you.
It's a fresh take.
On
on
Pocahontas. Yes, yes.
It's
Right,
not
exactly.
a new idea, but it's a fresh take.
Yeah. What was I going to say? That with one of the with all these movies, if you look at it, it's just.
Yeah.
But that being said, like there's a movie called The Blackwell Haunting. So there's like 7. They're like 60, 70-minute, 70-minute movies.
The Black Phone.
Yeah.
That was an original story.
Yes,
Yeah,
pretty
it
much.
was Joe Hill. It was a short. It was one of Joe Hill's short stories that they
Which
turned
that
into a
was-
movie.
Yeah.
I don't think that's supposed to get a sequel.
I hope they do, and I hope they do it right.
Well, now this is funny.
That was a sick mask, though.
This is funny. It was a good movie.
Yeah.
It was interesting. You have to have a lot of imagination to enjoy that movie, though, right? Because most of it happens in a basement.
Yeah.
Now that being said, what did you just say? I hope to make a second one. As we're just talking about doing fresh things, they finally did something fresh.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna do a second.
Well, I mean, continue the story. Do it right.
Well, that's
You
the
know,
thing.
don't
A lot of
just do
times-
the same
A
story
lot of times
again.
they don't continue the story.
Right.
I was gonna say
For me, what made that movie great was
we've
that-
said this. We said this 3 or 4 times, right? Friday the 13th, the first one is different from all the other movies. The Friday the 13th standalone movie was a really good movie.
Brilliant.
Was brilliant,
Right.
and the twist was brilliant.
Right.
It was the mother.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know that, it was the mother.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, everything else it was
Let's
okay.
say that
We're gonna. Everything else comes from the fact that the kid jumps out of the water afterwards, right? But so one standalone movie, you have to give it credit. First of all, it's a standalone movie, and then everything else, it's a continuation. It's like, look, you made a great character. The same thing with Friday.
Ready?
No, with Nightmare on Elm Street.
Freddy.
Yeah, Freddy.
Right.
Nightmare on Elm Street is basically somebody wrote a really fun character, so you could make 1,000 of those movies.
Right.
Well, he's dead now, but until he could have done them,
They tried to do it with somebody else.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
Miserable.
Right, because you made somebody you made a great character, and then somebody made it a genius character.
It's the curse of perfect casting.
Yeah, it always is.
Like it with Marvel, no one will ever be able to play Wolverine.
Wolverine. Well, Thor has the same problem.
No, but Wolverine, you can have somebody. They can, down the line, they can get somebody to play Wolverine, and it could be the best performance ever. It could be Oscar worthy. But to the fans, it will suck because it's not.
The funny thing is, before he did that, he was a Broadway.
Yeah,
he was a Broadway guy that did ballet, dancing.
Well, I mean, at this point, Batman is like 007, man. It's like he changes every 2-3 years,
right?
Or 2-3 movies, I should say. I think Ben Affleck has been in more movies than anyone else.
So
Batman.
I told you,
and he doesn't have his own movie. He doesn't.
One of my fun movies. One of my fun movies that I
same thing with him.
If you get a chance, we'll do recommendations in a bit. But one of the recommendations I'm going to give you now is this movie called The Mistress. Again, low budget, $100,000. Did not do any money, but man, is it good. There's quite a few things that could be better. The acting could be better, but that's again low budget. That's what you're going to get, right? You're paying somebody $150 an hour a day to do a movie. This is what you're going to get. But they did a pretty good job. Like a couple of the actors were good. The main actor was a little bit like weird. He had a reason to be weird, but I think it was even like it was a little bit dead. But still, the movie worked around it. I watched the Hopewell Haunting.
Okay,
this is a $40,000 movie. The cinematography was incredible. The directing was incredible. The acting sucked royally. But again, these are no name actors. But this guy just made a movie out of nothing and did pretty good. I was going to say the Blackwell Haunting. I'm saying it wrong. I think the Black House Haunting, whatever. There's like 7 of them. But this guy made the movie on no budget. He went with a camera and a fork.
He had his dream and he made it a reality.
No, he literally just it's a fake documentary that he goes into haunted houses to prove it wrong and it gets haunted. So it's just a documentary gone wrong.
Okay.
but he's got 7 of them with no budget.
Right.
So everybody says, like, look, you have to give the guy credit. I haven't watched any of them yet, but I have to sit down and watch at least the first one. I just hate documentary movies. You know, I'm not a big fan of them.
Then you're not gonna like my my flick picks this week.
I will tell you, we talked about this again, and I'll emphasize it. The Blair Witch Project, I did not like it because I do not like that type of fake found footage. I do not like it. That being said, you got to give them credit. The kid that did this was fantastic.
Yeah, smart idea.
And even the acting was pretty good, and everything was good. So don't listen to me. It's a good movie. I'm just not a fan of it. I don't like sitting around.
Have you ever seen Chronicle?
Huh?
Chronicle was all right.
It's a found footage superhero movie.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that one. No.
That's a good one.
Well, it just goes to show you how big like found footage thing came that brought
yeah.
into, like, the superhero world. You know.
What's the other one that the superhero movie that's a horror movie too?
Oh,
Brightburn.
Brightburn, phenomenal movie.
Brightburn.
Yeah, you guys gotta watch. Yeah, if you haven't watched Brightburn, that's a great movie.
Well,
Freaks you out.
one of the shows soon will be like movies that like crossover like that.
Yeah.
You know.
But okay, so the reason I'm saying this is because the movies that I like a lot I like ghost stories, right? And I like haunted stories, and but like you said earlier, Vinny, a lot of those stories are basically, if you look at it in the end of it, it's just a repeat. Somebody's going to
everything.
The Woman in Black, great movie. I liked it a lot. I think I got like a 6.7 on IMDb.
Yeah.
IMDb.
I once had somebody tell me that The Matrix was the last original movie.
Yeah.
It's Jesus.
Yeah.
It's the story of Jesus.
Yeah, right, exactly. You know,
It's the story of Jesus if he was an IT guy.
Yeah. Yes. Go ahead.
Well, apparently, Matrix and Terminator somehow link up. I forgot the whole story about it, but the woman who wrote it,
Yeah.
said that they connect.
It's-
I can't remember if the Matrix is supposed to be the prequel to Terminator.
Yeah,
or vice versa.
the Terminators take over, but they need a power supply, so they start using humans as batteries, and then they have to create the Matrix to keep the bodies, the minds alive, while they keep,
Yeah.
So
That's another like.
are like the
Oh,
skinny
yeah,
are the skinny people double A's and triple A's, like we're C batteries and D batteries? That's how it works.
I don't know, man. I'm like a car battery. If
Yeah.
that's how we're gonna go.
Yeah, right.
No, but I mean, it's basically, that's the end of Jason, man. It all ended with 2009 remake, you know. But
I mean, who knows if there's anything.
I mean, the only thing that they're working on right now for Jason is that show Camp Crystal Lake.
Right.
I read the synopsis when they first announced it. Wasn't into it.
Well,
It's again going
not
to the
mainstream,
well.
but don't forget about Hike Alone.
Oh,
Never
well,
Hike Alone.
I mean, if you want to talk, if you want to, like, I would definitely give Never Hike Alone. I would give Ghost Jason. They call him. I would give that an honorable mention because I love the look of Jason.
Yeah, I didn't watch. What was the third one? In the Snow.
Part 2. Well, there's Never Hike. Well, the order in which they were created was Never Hike Alone.
Snow Bunny Jason?
No, Never Hike Alone. Never Hike in the Snow, and then Never Hike Alone Part 2. But
Okay.
I think the way the story's supposed to. I think Hike in the Snow was supposed to be like before.
Okay.
Hike
Well,
Alone.
I didn't see Snow,
Okay.
but I loved 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Loved them.
Wait,
Oh,
so
I
there's a Jason
It's
in the
fan
film?
films.
It's a
It's
fan film.
YouTube fan.
Oh, I was
films.
going to say, but that's
Never
actually
Hike Alone.
that's pretty good because I will tell you, just the imagery of white snow and blood.
Yeah.
That's got to be a good
Oh,
movie.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
You might not like the first one because it is kind of found footagey. It's a guy that explores Camp Crystal Lake, and there's Jason.
Right.
You know what? Okay,
Wasn't that
so
Hike in the, wasn't that Snow?
you have to
No,
understand
that's Never
something.
Hike Alone.
The
They were
problem
both
with
like that.
the problem with found footage.
Well, I didn't see Snow.
Oh, okay.
The problem with found footage is always the same thing for me: overacting, because it's just the way it is. Because look at it, and they're overacting.
Right.
Because if you were videoing yourself, like we're on video right now, we don't talk. We talk normal.
Right.
You know, this is the way. I talk with my
We're
hands.
just having a conversation with a camera.
Yeah, exactly. but
And
people
comment.
forget that. But people forget that, and they overact on found footage. That's what bothers me more than anything else. And that's what It's funny. So I was watching. So I watched Evil Dead, great movie. I can go and watch Evil Dead Rise, or I gotta watch that soon.
Oh, the new one.
Because no, the one from 1989 or whatever, 87. I watched it years ago, but I just don't remember it anymore because it's I watched a bunch of these movies.
Well, you watched the first one, right?
Yeah.
So you basically saw the second.
It's the same thing.
It's pretty much the same
Right.
story.
But what I was going to say was this. For the most part, there's overacting, but except what's his name, of course. Even he did a little bit of overacting. What's his name?
Bruce Campbell?
Yeah.
Bruce Campbell. Oh, yeah.
Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, but it's Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, right.
He does that in all his
Yeah, exactly. Right. But everybody else, but that's the way he acts.
Right.
Whereas everybody else was just, like the overact, like that, his friend that,
Right.
it's one of those guys that you just want to punch in the face.
Even his cameo in Multiverse of Madness as Pizza Papa.
Yeah.
He did the same, you could tell it's Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
Not just because he looks like him, but he's got one line, but he
Right.
somebody steals from Pizza Papa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he has his style.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying.
Worked
That's
for
what the Evil Dead movie.
Right, I'm saying that's his style. Whereas everybody else is basically.
And then even he did a TV show, Burn Notice, which was like a spy drama, and he wasn't the main. He was, like a secondary character, and it was toned down a little bit, but you could still see it.
But
I
so
think the only thing I've ever seen him in that he was different was Maniac Cop. He wasn't Ash.
Right. Well,
He's
no, like
not.
in Burn Notice, he wasn't Ash,
Right.
but you still know it's him.
right.
Right.
So,
No, I get it.
but do you see what I'm saying with unless it's a slasher movie?
yeah.
Slasher movies are different.
Mhm.
Slasher movies, the overacting, you could deal with it because it becomes almost like comical and funny and
Right.
part of the thing. Whereas when you're doing a ghost story movie or the overacting, even when it's a low budget, it literally kills.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So we were watching again. I was watching that the Hopewell Haunting, and so there's a scene where these two are sleeping in the church, and the reverend or whoever in charge of the church walks in, and he sees two people sleeping on his bench, and he's supposed to be like in a bad mood, but why are you sleeping on my bench? And then the guy goes, well, but that doesn't make it right. Oh, I didn't know where to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He didn't like, at a certain point, you don't. I get it that you have to show that you're not happy, because that was the whole twist, that it was not a happy, person that had to now go investigate something. But his whole acting was like, even as he was just standing there, was like talking to himself. He was yelling. I'm like, oh my God. So that's the one place director needed to tell him, like, dude, bring it down a couple of notches.
Because it's supposed to be like when if let's say this is the 80s.
Yeah.
My dad brings out his camcorder. It's just supposed to be us hanging out.
Right.
It's just supposed to be us basically filming ourselves like for Christmas Day.
Right.
You're not supposed to act.
Yeah.
You're just supposed to be. You're just supposed to be you,
Yep.
what you're doing. Plus like the whole bench thing, it's like, come on, we're all from New York.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
know how those people really act. They act like that, but that they're not acting.
Yeah.
Right.
You know the difference. So when you see these found footage movies and people are, quote unquote acting, it really takes a lot of it away. That's what. See, the crazy thing is because I've seen, with the exception of the last one that was that went straight to streaming, the Paranormal Activity movies. I've seen all of them in theater. So the first one in theater, didn't think much of it. Then I got invited to see the second one. I'm like, sure. At this point, I'm like, all right, I got to see all of them in theater now.
I love those movies.
I do, but I don't. I love going to them. I don't get as scared as they said they did in the original ad, where you see people in the audience like, oh, like everybody screaming at the same time, and like you get to. But even then,
I was
in the theater while we were watching the first one, there were people in the theater acting scared, like they're supposed to be in the like in the ads, and I'm like, chill the fuck out.
Yeah, but
This isn't that scary. They were fun.
Yeah.
It just wasn't scary. That's scary.
as I say, even if somebody got really stabbed right next to me, I still would be shocked. I'd be like, it happened. It's New York. It's hard. Yeah, that
It's kind of what we get here.
See, like, I love the Paranormal Activity movies? Was
Uh,
it 5 of them? 4 of them that went to theater, 1 straight Paramount.
I think that's what it was. It was either 5 in the theater and 4.
But I recognize that they're not good movies.
Right.
I just, like my ex-girlfriend couldn't understand it when I would say that movie is so bad. I freaking loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see.
When
I think about that, I think of Toxic Avenger. I don't think of Paranormal.
Right, but it's it's like if it was bad, how'd you like it? I'm like, but I liked it.
See, one of my issues with, I think it was part 3 that I had was in the trailer or in the ad for it. No.
I think it was just 3.
Yeah, it was just part 3. And they bring in like a medium to the house to like talk to the spirit or find out what the spirit is. In the in the ad for it, you just see the guy like sitting at the end of the table, and then all of a sudden just starts bashing his own, like not with his hand, but like his head's like bashing on the table. Didn't happen in the movie.
I hate that.
I bought the Blu-ray
to see if it happened.
Just to get the deleted
extended
scene?
cut or the deleted scene. Wasn't even in there. I was so upset. There were 2 scenes from that movie that they put in the ad that wasn't in the movie or deleted scenes. I can't remember what the other one was, but there were 2. But that was a big one. That's what made me say, all right, fine, I'll see the 3rd one in theater.
That's going to be. I think that's another topic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Deleted
we just
scene?
went into the
But
whole
no. When they show stuff in the trailer, that's not in the movie.
right,
Well,
nor in the deleted scenes.
Well, no, yeah, but my point being is obviously if you showed it in a trailer, they made the scene.
Yeah.
It's still a deleted scene.
Right,
It-
even though it doesn't make it to the deleted scenes
well, okay,
feature
so
in
yeah,
the Blu-ray.
yeah. Well, then, right. If it doesn't make it if it doesn't make it anywhere in the movie and in the Blu-ray or anything like that, no, they should not include it in there. That being said, when you're writing this stuff, when you're writing a movie, you write a scene that you love. The director shoots a scene that they love. The editor is the last guy, and he's gonna say like, yeah, you know what? That's a great written scene. That's a great directed scene. But I can't use it.
Right.
But he probably figured I can't use it. So I'm not giving, but they still shouldn't put it in.
Oh
thing.
yeah,
Yes,
well,
that's
see, like
it,
that was the problem with like Friday the 13th Part 7. There were so many things that they could not, because of the MPAA, put in the theater. Now the problem with that was, instead of like saving all that footage that they had to cut out and change and all that stuff, gone.
Yeah.
Like those will never be like on the deleted scenes reel or anything like that, because they just
Back in the day,
The
cutting room floor,
right,
literally.
But the thing is, like some of those movies, they kept it. It's like, I'm going to mention it again for the 4th time in the 4th episode, Silent Night, Deadly Night. When they released it on Blu-ray, they made a director's cut or an extended cut where they took scenes that they couldn't put in the movie in the theater in it, but they weren't able to upgrade the quality of it. So while you're watching it, you see like this great quality movie, then all of a sudden it gets dark. You know, you can see like, the little hairs on the screen and all that stuff for like 5 seconds. You know, they did the same thing with Exorcist 3.
And then when X-Men Origins, when it leaked, and it's like, you know, it's like I had a bootleg DVD, and it's like it, at one point in the movie, it cuts to storyboard.
Dude,
oh my god,
dude,
Yeah.
that was the one that I think you lent it to me when the airplane scene where Logan's on the outside of the airplane, uses his claws to get in the airplane. It just turns into not just CGI, but like CGI without the color.
Yeah.
So you just see this like
Storyboard.
CGI stick figure on like a white computerized plane, and I think it even had the grid.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm watching this. I'm like, holy shit, this is great. Like they should just keep this in because this is amazing.
So a lot of times the man kind of ruins movies. I was gonna say that. So not a horror, not a hero movie, but one of the fun quotes that I saw was when they were talking about Good Will Hunting, and it's a rated R movie,
right?
And so the studio comes to Affleck and what's his name, Damon, and said, well, Damon basically, because he really wrote it,
right?
But it goes to Damon. He goes, look, we think it'll do better if it's a PG-13 movie, which they always do because more people can go.
Mm-hmm.
Says, so what's the problem? He says, well, they only allow you to say fuck 5 times. Right. And he said, oh, how many times did we say it? 250. Like, what do you want me to do? Change the whole movie? It's like
how many times you say 7? Well, we can cut 2 of them out.
Yeah, it's like you're
250.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah.
You're in Boston. You're gonna
Sorry,
get
kids.
fuck.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite deleted scenes was in the Friday the 13th remake, 2009, how he gets the mask. You know, in the movie, the way it happens is, you know, there's the guy like smoking weed at the top of the barn or whatever, and you know, goes over to him, kills the guy, whatever. You know, he takes the sheet off his head, the sack, and you know, the guy looks at him, he's like, "Yo, man, that's fucked up," and he just killed him. You know. Then he looks down, he sees the hockey mask on the floor, and takes it and goes. Originally. And I even told Derek Mears this. I wish they would have kept that original scene because it was so much cooler. This guy's smoking weed. He puts the hockey mask on. You know, he's smoking it through the mask. You know, blowing the smoke out. Jason comes over to him, cuts his head off, picks up the head, looks at the head with the hockey mask on, and then the next scene he's wearing it. I was like, that would have been
so much better.
But because of MPAA and all that shit,
right.
They had to change it. Yeah.
So just so you know, we're an hour and a half in, which I'm fine with. But is there stuff that we want to get to before we?
Yeah, I know we strayed so far from what our.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I mean, well, at least we got to talk about our favorite
Captain America
characters.
and Jason.
Now, was there anything now, as far as Captain America goes? I think the last where we left off was
Chris Evans.
Chris Evans with the tactical outfit.
So after that, it changed. You know, he wore the different suit in Winter Soldier.
And
the stealth suit.
What did that one look like?
It was the darker blue, lot less red, no stripes. It had the shield and like the white stripes coming out to the side.
Okay.
You know, then the only other change after that is in when he first shows up in Infinity War.
Now that was like a full on black suit, wasn't it?
Yes and no. So it's the suit that he wore in Civil War. So now at the end of Civil War, he's a fugitive.
Right.
So now when he first appears in Infinity War, in that train scene, you know, the train station scene, I should say, and, you know, he catches the spear, throws it back, and the star is gone. It's like ripped off or whatever. Like you can see where it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
The Avengers logo is gone. It's, you know, it's got holes in it. It's, you know, he's been wearing this suit for 5 years, but like not having the star and the Avengers symbols because he wasn't fighting for the country anymore. He wasn't fighting for the Avengers anymore. He was fighting for his survival.
He was like a vigilante.
He was a fugitive.
So
he didn't sign the Accords, and he was a fugitive. He was on the run.
I always loved that about him.
You know, and he didn't wear the cowl, and he grew out the beard. You know.
So I have a couple of questions. Well, this is more because I'm curious about this stuff. How well is the new Captain America doing in theaters? You know,
it is not doing as well as
it's
some of the other movies.
Yeah. Okay.
You know.
Okay.
Like I enjoyed it, but it wasn't great. It could have been better. You know.
But how's it? Is it getting? Is it also not getting received well because everybody was like Chris Evans as Captain America?
No, I think Anthony Mackie is being received very well as Captain America. It's just the movie fell short.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah. See,
like they built up the Hulk.
Yeah.
They built up Red Hulk to this anticlimactic finish.
I mean,
and then it didn't hit.
No, I don't think.
I still feel like seeing the Red Hulk on screen.
It was awesome to see him,
especially since it was Harrison Ford.
It was awesome to see him, but
I just think it was too little.
It was and
but at least you have more. It's like, look, they advertised the Red Hulk for this movie. At least you got more of him than you got of Tony Todd in the Candyman movie. You know what I mean?
Well, I will tell you that. Listen, when they asked Harrison Ford, like, was that, like, you did the whole thing and stuff like that. Was it a little bit weird? It's just for $20 million, I'll do anything they want. He really made it clear that the money basically made it.
Right.
And again, that brings me to my second question. Let's go back to the original Avengers, right?
Okay.
To the first couple of movies.
Right.
Whatever, the whole series. You had the main actors.
Right.
They're all high-paid actors.
Yeah.
There's not a non. Did they need all those actors? I know they all hit perfect home runs. I know it was great, and I loved it. I love the whole series.
That's the thing. Did they need to have the big names for everybody? Maybe not. But they did it, and it worked. DC, when they did Justice League, you know, they had the big name for Superman, they had the big name for Batman, they had the big name for Wonder Woman,
Well,
and,
wait,
and,
she
and
wasn't-
Aquaman.
She wasn't that big of a name until she became one.
well, I was
I mean,
gonna
I knew
say,
who she was.
She was a big name in
I
Israel.
was about to say, I didn't know who she was.
She's,
And I also-
she's in most of the Fast and the Furious movies.
But I was going to say,
You know, and
she seemed to be
I
a
knew who
perfect.
she was.
She seems like a perfect fit now.
Oh yeah,
But she wasn't. She's
Right.
not. But she's not a $20 million. She,
Right.
she gets it
no,
now.
but you know,
Okay,
when Justice League came out, who the hell was Ezra Miller?
but that's what I'm saying.
You know,
That's what I'm saying.
You
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
Ray Fisher, who?
So that's what
You
I'm
know,
saying.
if
DC
you don't
did
know
it.
that's Flash and Cyborg, respectively.
So that right. That's DC.
You know,
Well,
so they
who,
they
who are you
did the
saying?
Marvel thing.
Who are you saying
and it
that?
failed.
Who are you saying that's right? Okay, all right. That's what you. That's
You know,
what you're saying.
they tried to, you know, they had the big names for the four already established characters. So they're like, all right, there's two other guys that are getting introduced in this movie. Let's use, you know, like
So-
up and comers.
So here's
And
here's
Or
the,
the guy from the
here's the-
Flash show.
okay. So here's the
It would've
thing.
been
So
much better if they
Superman.
used Grant Gustin.
Let's talk about Superman, right? What's his name played it, right, for DC? Go ahead, say the name because I can't remember.
Christopher Reeve.
No.
Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill.
Harry Cavill did a good job.
Yes.
Okay, but I will tell you this: somebody showed me a scene and said this is why Christopher Reeve was so good at it, because he wasn't just great at Superman; he was great as Clark Kent.
Oh
they,
yeah.
they showed a scene where he basically walks in as Clark Kent, and it wasn't like the scene was meant to do this, but basically it was like, all right, you're Clark Kent. So he's like slumped and like this, hunched and stuff like that.
Right.
And they said, and when people walk out, all of a sudden he stands up and you could see Superman like in that instant.
Well,
I don't think Henry Cavill had that.
No. See, that's it. We're playing a lot of superheroes, more on the DC side than the Marvel side. You need to be able to play two characters.
Right. Yes.
You know, Michael Keaton was great Batman and a great
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne. Not Nolan. Bale, great Batman, great Bruce Wayne. Pattinson was a good Batman. I have no idea he wasn't Bruce Wayne at all in that movie.
Yeah.
The one scene that he wasn't Batman, where he went to the funeral, he was Bruce Wayne. He was Batman going undercover as Bruce Wayne. You know, so
I think he was.
but as
He
far
played it more as a spoiled rich boy.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is how it should be done. That's Batman.
What about Affleck? I think that he was better as Bruce.
He was a way better Bruce Wayne. I think he
You
was the
think so?
best Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But the only time we really see him his best portrayal as Batman is unfortunately in the Flash movie.
See,
That opening scene during the day with the motorcycle, I think he looks the best that he looked in anything else.
my thing that I liked about Michael Keaton, again, I saw it in the theater when it came out. And I went with my first girlfriend, Stacy, to watch that movie when it came out. Right, I was in the long line, stuff like that. Didn't realize that at the time when I was watching it. But one of the things I liked about it, the scenes, was that he played a very distracted Bruce Wayne, right? He
Right.
very yeah, I'm rich, I don't have to worry about all this stuff. Well, meanwhile, that he's always thinking.
But Michael Keaton, it seemed like when he was Bruce Wayne, he was only Bruce Wayne when he needed to.
Yeah,
be Bruce
right.
Wayne. You know, that's the thing. A lot of it's in comic readers will tell you this. Peter Parker puts on a costume and becomes Spider-Man.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
Batman takes off his costume to become Bruce Wayne.
Yes.
You know, like his default setting is Batman.
Right.
So
You know, Iron Man puts on Tony Stark puts on the suit. to become
I'm going
Iron
to
Man.
inquisitive him while I have a minute one here.
And while we were talking costumes, since we were talking costumes, do you know why Batman's has that bright spot on his chest?
Right spot. What do you mean? right
Like
spot?
The
Michael
yellow,
Keaton
yeah.
is all black with the yellow circle on his chest.
Yeah.
It's to create a target. His chest is the most heavily armored part of his costume.
All right, makes
Oh,
sense.
okay.
You know, so like if Batman's gliding in at you, and you got a gun.
Yeah.
Where are you going to shoot at?
But
Where
It's
yellow.
the yellow dot,
Right.
and it's going to hit the most armored
So-
part of his costume.
So what came before? I'm sorry. Let me corner him for a second. What came before Spider-Man? Captain America was the original, right?
in the movies?
Spike Lee. No, Spike Lee. Spike Lee. Oh my God.
Spider-Man?
Stanley.
Stan Lee.
Shit. Spike Lee. Fucking
Close.
Spike Lee.
Yeah.
Spike Lee, didn't he do Black Man?
Blank Man, maybe.
Blank Man. No, I'm
Maybe.
kidding. I'm kidding.
Black
Uh,
Klansman. That's the one.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, he did that one. That one's. But Stanley.
Right.
There was a funny story when he made the character and he was still working for people, right? Well, you know, he had bosses, and
Right.
they told him to create a new character, and he created Spider-Man. And the office comes and basically tell the higher ups come and say, "Oh, this doesn't make any sense. He's a kid. They're not supposed to be kids. He's what's it called? He's in Queen. And all
When
this stuff.
Spider-Man was created, he broke all the rules.
He broke a look, but he also got rejected.
Oh, yeah.
And what happened is they basically put it on the back of a story that was selling. It was the last
Amazing
time.
Fantasy.
Right.
Amazing Fantasy
Right,
15.
right. And if you own that
First
comic book,
Spider-Man, but it wasn't.
it's $1 million
It's-
comic book right
Yeah,
now, right?
it's. I mean, I held one in my hand. I felt rich.
Yes, but
It's probably the most money I've ever had in my hand
so
at once.
so Stanley was telling the story that so he puts it in there, basically, and never thinks about it again. But apparently, it was received so well. So the guy that basically told him that was a stupid idea.
Right.
Remember that great idea we had about a spider thing? Write
I
some
mean,
more about it.
that's happened before. Spawn.
Yeah.
I'm sure both of you have heard of Spawn. He's
Yeah.
one of the most popular indie comic characters ever created.
Yeah.
Todd McFarlane created this character and was turned down by both Marvel and DC multiple times.
Yeah.
And then he said, "Screw it, I'm just gonna." And then he went to Image, and and now it's a top seller. It made Image Comics into the
So
company.
I'm done interrogating him because I know what.
Well, I just wanted to ask him a quick question though, since we are talking about
Costumes.
costumes. DC. Let's
Right.
talk about Superman. Christopher Reeve to Henry Cavill. Superman.
Right.
Panties or no panties? I'm serious.
I have to say, when it comes to Superman's look, underwear goes on the outside.
All right. I'm gonna agree with that.
Only because if you look at the comics, right?
Yeah.
And obviously through the comics, 90% of the time he has the underwear on the outside.
There's a reason for it.
When you get to Rebirth,
Yeah.
right, which was like a relaunch of everything, they did away with the underwear on the outside,
Right.
and it just doesn't look
It
right.
doesn't look right because of the belt.
The,
belt above
but,
it,
It's
like,
just,
yeah.
something's
But they
off.
did it. The reason he has the underwear is because he was designed. They took the idea of a wrestler,
Yeah,
right? That's why it was. He had that look. But he looks like a wrestler.
But Batman had that look too.
Yeah,
Adam,
exactly.
it's all right.
Oh, yeah.
Adam,
Batman is a gray top with gray pants with black underwear.
right. So Batman,
But
Adam
nobody
West-
gives Batman shit about
Adam West to Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
Panties or no panties?
it.
So you guys, I think you guys watched the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
All right, and
There's one playing in my head
Yeah.
the whole show.
yeah.
They built the
And-
pyramids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
And Adam West is in the car with the nerds,
Right.
and so they talk about who's the best Batman, and
Oh, they talk with Adam West about
Yeah,
it.
but- and Adam West, what about West? And somebody says, well, what about Affleck? What's an Affleck?
Yeah.
Well, I think the best Adam West story, but in that respect, is that Adam West did a one of the talk shows like Jimmy Fallon or
Yeah.
whatever, and it was either Fallon or what's the other Jimmy? Kimmel.
Oh, Kimmel. Yeah.
And they mentioned to him that he's the only one that doesn't use the voice,
Yeah.
and he never said, "Oh, Batman,"
He
and
said that on the-
and Adam West's response was golden.
Yeah.
He goes, "You see, all these other guys, they have to say it.
Right.
But me,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it. I'm never going to say it.
Yeah.
Because when I walk into a room, everyone knows.
yeah, yeah.
And he does the exaggerated voice and everything.
You want to know where you?
Great.
The
You're-
funny thing is, he's used that same speech in that Big Bang episode.
Yeah.
He's
What?
like, I never had to say that I'm Batman.
Yeah.
If I walked into a room and everybody.
You want to
knew
know
that
an
I
even
was
funny story? I don't know if you know this about
When
it.
he did it on
Oh, he didn't do
he
it
did the
voice.
voice. He did the voice.
When they were doing this show, he was very popular. Like he was
Oh,
having like this is the rated X part of the show. He was having orgies before the
Oh,
time.
yeah.
Like
Who, Adam West?
Adam West
Oh,
and what's his name? The Robin.
Oh, and
Uh,
going back to what you're saying about Christopher Reeve.
Little Dick.
Yeah.
While filming Superman, one of the movies, he would go like on a break.
Yeah.
You know, he would walk around. If he was wearing the Superman costume, people would go nuts.
Yeah.
But then like he would take a break while he was dressed as Clark Kent.
Nobody cared.
Like he actually like walked into a comic store. You know, like
Because he did look like
and
awesome.
it proved
Yeah.
that all you had to do was
Yeah.
take the cape off and put on glasses, and you're a different guy.
Yep.
Yeah. People will recognize you for Superman.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I mean, even if they didn't know that he was going to be in the Superman movie at the time,
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like they're like, holy shit. It's like Christopher Reeve
Speaking
is
of
Superman.
though, I gotta say though, my favorite portrayal of Superman is and I hope I'm saying his last name correctly, Tyler Hoechlin.
Okay.
He plays Superman in the Supergirl series,
Okay.
and then in the Superman and Lois series.
Okay.
And the Superman and Lois series is completely different than anything. His story, you know, it's later in life. They have 2 teenage boys, you know, and it's great. But it's more Clark Kent than Superman.
Isn't
You know?
But isn't that what I'm sorry for cutting you off, but isn't that what the Dean Cain and
Now it's before.
Right.
What was that called? Wasn't that
That
Lois and Clark?
was Lois and Clark.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
But
That's where you threw me off for saying
for
like,
me,
wait a
though,
minute.
in one of his first appearances in the show, it was in an episode of Supergirl. There were drones attacking the city, and you know it's a mother and kid, and this drone flies in right in front of them. The guns are targeting. You know, you get the POV of the drone with the guns targeting, and it fires. And he just out of nowhere comes in, holds the cape up, blocks the bullets, turns his head, heat visions the drone, looks back at the kid, winks, and flies away.
Mm.
And it's like that is like the most Superman thing to do.
I was going to say, remember last week we were talking about iconic scenes in the movie?
Right.
Yeah.
One of the most iconic scenes is always going to be the baby lifting the car
Yeah.
for his
Oh,
dad.
yeah.
In the original and in
Yes.
the comics. It's
But
a copy of the comic, right?
Yeah. And another thing in Superman and Lois, Superman and Lois, and it's one of the later seasons. He finds out that somebody hit one of his boys.
Yeah.
Right. Like another one of
Like a
them
bully
lives in
or
the town.
something. Yeah.
No, but like an adult.
Oh, okay.
One of his, that physical one of his kids, and he's going to leave the house, and Lois is like, stop. This isn't a job for Superman, and he's like, Superman's not going.
Mhm.
And he, as Clark Kent, he confronts this guy,
Right.
and the guy pushes him, and he doesn't move.
Right.
And it's like, he gives him that out. He's like, never speak to my family again, never, and it's like just the way when the guy pushed him,
Right.
it'd be like a 4-year-old
Yeah.
pushing you. You're not gonna move, and that kid's gonna fall backwards.
Yeah.
It's just that. They're just seeing Clark Kent.
Right, and that
get
was enough.
off.
That was enough for the guy to know not.
Like, no, I'm not gonna muck with this guy.
Right. That's fair.
So let's start wrapping this up.
Oh, so all right. So here's our flick picks, and I actually have 2, only because one is like if you have AMC Plus, this one's a good one to check out. It's only 6 hours and 40 minutes. It's called Crystal Lake Memories. You can buy it on Apple TV or Prime. It's like $8 to buy, but in segments. There's a part 1 and a part 2. It's called Crystal Lake Memories, or you can buy it on Fandango at home, bundled with Never Sleep Alone, which is about Freddy. But Crystal Lake Memories basically takes you from Friday the 13th Part 1 all the way to the 2009 remake. And it goes through each one as if it's its own like little mini documentary. That's why it's so long. And I only suggest it if you have AMC Plus, because that's the only place where you can find it streaming now. It used to be on Shudder. I know that doesn't help you now. But the other one that I would suggest is To Hell and Back, the Kane Hodder story. If you just want to see the whole story about Kane Hodder, it's free on Tubi and Fandango at home. But you can also find it on AMC Plus, and if you have a Prime subscription. Again, I'm a huge Kane Hodder fan. So most of that 6 hours and 40 minutes is of Kane Hodder. And of course, To Hell and Back, the Kane Hodder story is all about Kane Hodder. It's a great story if you want to sit and listen about the guy who plays Jason for 4 movies. It's as heartbreaking as it is heartwarming.
And mine, I mentioned the first movie a lot today, but Blade 2. It's sequel to Blade, obviously. But there's a new breed of vampire. Like there's a deal struck between vampires and humans, and where vampires do what they got to do, but stay in the dark. There's this new breed that are basically like crackhead vampires that need to feed
Out of Alabama?
constantly. Well, and they don't only feed on humans; they also feed on vampires.
Oh,
And like they're just increasing their numbers. And Blade, the Daywalker, and the vampires need to work together to stop this new threat. But the Novak is the name of the main villain. The Blade Novak fight, it's a one-on-one fight. It is, in my opinion, top 3 hero villain fights in comic book movies.
fantastic.
I'm going to tell you 2 movies also. One I mentioned earlier, The Mistress. Very good movie. You'll enjoy it. But it's not a 100% sure thing because not everybody likes these little suspense ghost type of stories. The second one is The Orphanage, which is actually Guillermo del Toro movie. He's the master of just freaking you out with just storytelling. And great twist, great plot, great everything, great acting. Much higher budget movie than the other movies that I recommend. So those are the 2 that I'm telling you about.
So before we go, like where can we find any of these movies?
Both on Amazon. I watch everything on Amazon Prime. It has everything.
Blade, Marvel and DC are easy. If it's Marvel, it's on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
If it's DC, it's on HBO Plus.
Okay, cool. All right, thank you guys for joining us.
Don't forget, tomorrow I'll be putting up a new poll for the week, so on the Facebook group. So just check that out.
Oh, we're gonna be watching Leprechaun soon.
Oh yeah, Vinny and I
We're on St. Patty's Day. We got our tickets.
a week from tomorrow. Vinny and I will be at the Alamo Draft House watching Leprechaun.
So it'll be
Classic.
so it'll be for 2 weeks from now that we'll talk about.
Everybody's gonna be drinking green beer and eating corn. What do you call it? Corned beef.
Corned beef and cabbage.
Corned beef and cabbage. We're gonna be watching the. We're gonna be watching.
I even have a new superhero shirt that is green,
I have
debuting next week.
I have like 7 Leprechaun shirts, and I can't find one of them. So hopefully, I'll be able to find one before next Sunday.
Have a good night, everybody.
Go on, suckers.
See you next week.